Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. On this channel, we discuss day-to-day problems people face in their lives. Let's start with the video. My husband and mother started getting along extremely strangely in the past few months. The reason I say strangely is that how their interactions came through and how they constantly lied or tried to cover something up about one another sparked so many suspicions within me and my sisters. At first, their interactions started seemingly. Harmlessly, they would run into each other as they went to a doctor's office or on their way from work or at a grocery shop. Then I realized that I heard about my mother and my husband's life pretty much every day or two. Even when that happened, I tried to keep red flags at bay, not to mention or spark any unnecessary arguments with my husband or my mother. I only realized that something was going on or being deliberately hidden when my sister found them at a hospital together. When she asked me if I had known about it, I was utterly clueless. Neither of them cared to inform me after the interaction when my sister told me that my mom and my husband were secretly meeting up at the hospital without letting me know. I was infuriated and I made sure to let my husband as well as my mother know of my feelings. I talked to my husband as soon as he walked into the house and asked him where he was, and he blatantly just lied to my face telling me that he was at work, and then he stopped by a coffee shop to catch up with an old school friend of his, completely denying having been with my mother. He sounded so sincere in the way he tried to explain to me that he wasn't with her, that the only reason I ended up still being convinced he was lying was that my sister was utterly oblivious to my suspicions and the red flags that have been going up throughout the past few months. The incident that tipped things over the edge and changed the course of my marriage and relationship with my mother took place a few months after that story. I was talking to my mother over the phone. She briefly mentioned that she was going to Switzerland with a few of her girlfriends because one of them's husband had passed away recently and his lifetime goal was to go to Switzerland, and that his wife was traveling there to scatter his ashes in the spot they always wished to go to. As heartwarming and saddening as that story may sound to you, it was completely false. I know that because I ran into the friend that my mother was talking about a few days ago, after a week before my mother was booked to depart. She told me that she wasn't aware of any plans with mom and had no clue that she had made plans with my mom. She denied that they were going to go to Switzerland, and my red flags were immediately fired again. What's even worse is that not even a few hours after I had gone home from talking to my mother's friend that confirmed my mother was lying to me, I was informed by my husband that he was flying out to Europe for business purposes, and his trip would be no short of a weekend nor more of a month. At the same time, my mother was supposed to go to Switzerland. The only thing that didn't overlap between them was my mother leaving about 3 days before my husband did. At this point, I was extremely distraught and could tell something was being cooked. And that thing was sinister in Love Island and was going to ruin my marriage. I couldn't talk about it with my mother and get her opinion on it, and the closest I could get to her was my sister again. I called her fully broken down and told her about what was going on, and she told me that she would be there for me in trying to figure things out as things progressed, and maybe they wouldn't go together and they would end up going to 2 different countries. She tried cheering me up by telling me that it's weird how life sometimes works and I should have trust and faith in my husband and mom, but I knew that something was up and I couldn't shake off the intense feeling of unease and distress. Those few days passed and my mother did end up flying to Switzerland, and my husband followed mere days after. My suspicions were quickly confirmed when I realized that the spy app I had installed on my husband was proving fruitful. They had indeed headed to the same country. Not only that, but they were in the same city and the same hotel at the same time. As insane as this might sound to you, but at the time I was convinced that my mother and my husband were having an affair behind my back. They had flown together to one of Europe's finest countries as some twisted romantic getaway, while I stayed at home and sobbed the fallout of the 2 cornerstone relationships in my life. Not only was I then convinced that my mom and husband were having an affair, but I also suspected that my mother could be pregnant because they would always run into each other at the doctor's office and go to the hospital without letting me know and lying about it even when I confronted both of them. My sister had only seen them there once, but only God knows how many times they went and how many times they lied about where they have been. My mom was married at a young age. She had us when she was young. So she's yet to go through her menopause, and the chances of her being pregnant are not that low considering the gravity of what they were trying to hide. I got the first plane ticket that went to Switzerland the following few days and ended up dropping by their hotels to give them a visit. My sister had come with me for emotional support, but little did we know that we were about to learn information that not only would make us realize that we're crappy people, but that would also change the course of our lives. When we got there, we realized that they had booked 2 different rooms instead of one, which already didn't count up to the story we had come to be convinced with. Still, we walked into their rooms, my sister into my mom's and me into my husband's, and found them hooked to monitoring machines and needles numbered for more remarkable than what the human body should be attached to. Standing at the door and seeing my mom in such conditions made my knees sink to the floor as the realization hit me. My mother was probably sick of something so deadly, she wasn't even able to tell me about it, to a point where she needed to fly to another country to get treated for it. And I was here to accuse her of having an affair with my husband and end my relationship with her. A few months back, they both did run into each other at the hospital, where they were getting medical checkups. Their assigned nurse had made a grave mistake of switching equipment that she was using while an autoimmune patient and ended up infecting the new supplies that she was using on my husband and mother. They had walked in at the same time because they were technically considered a family. As a result of this, my mom and my husband both got HIV. The nurse got fired and sued by the hospital. And a couple of other people that had suffered the same destiny as my mom and husband, only my mom and husband chose not to put forth any charges and to salvage their lives as soon as possible before things would take a more irreversible route. They began their treatment immediately and wasted no time getting involved with legal shenanigans. They were transferred to Switzerland for the last procedure, and that was supposed to declare that they were finally HIV free. I still can't believe that I had so much distrust and looked down at my mom and husband so much that I dared to suspect something so evil from them and even remained suspicious until I went back home and got the confirmation from the hospital they got infected. I'm happy that neither one of them died. Things got diagnosed and treated immediately afterwards, or else I genuinely would have never forgiven myself for being such an a-hole. You're the a-hole. Although we can all agree that there was a lot of evidence that might have insinuated an affair was taking place, you should have been more aggressive and communicative with both your mom and your husband. What you did was highly wrong and unfair, and the way you handled it is even more immature and unhealthy. You can do better and learn how to take a relationship if you consider it important to you in a better way in the future. Not the a-hole. You acted out on circumstantial evidence, and you have biases which I can't understand simply from this one story because your husband might have cheated on you before, or your mother could be a toxic, unhealthy person in a way that wouldn't make an affair going on between the two of them seem like something outrageous. But at the same time, I can see the toxicity in what you've done and how you've handled your suspicions. Good luck with handling the trust issues that will come as a gift bracket with this. You're the a-hole. Why did you act on this as if you had no idea who your husband and mother are? They cared for you and your emotions and didn't want to alarm you over a situation that could be resolved very discreetly. HIV is a hazardous and lethal disease because it works silently and isn't detected until the later stages. So them keeping it a secret and not alarming the other family members was the right thing to do because it would have caused more stress and make the process more complicated when doctors can handle it in months. Which is what happened. You're not going to sit around and tell you to put my trust in your family members. But come on, even if you didn't trust your husband to cheat, the least you could have done was trust your mother, saying that your relationship with her is good and somewhat decent. Next story. My goddaughter, Amy, 19, lives with her dads and is a full-time student. She is adopted. Her dads, Alex and Mike, are my best friends and have always been adamant that Amy doesn't need to know about her real parents. A bit ago, Amy came to me and asked me if I could please get her a DNA test for her birthday back in October. She has nothing against her dads and loves them very much, but she said it feels like she has the right to know and like there's always been a missing piece to herself. I grew up with a single mother and the only thing I knew about my sperm donor is that he's a huge piece of crap and meeting him ruined my mom's life, so I could understand where she was coming from a little bit. I got it and gave it to her. She was thrilled and did her thing. I've never taken a DNA test, so I don't really know how they work, but apparently, she has been able to find her biological mom recently. Her mom reached out to her dads to introduce herself, and now I have both of them screaming down my neck about betraying their trust and undermining them, and a whole bunch of other bulls. I think she's basically an adult and should be allowed to know if she wants to know, but I'm wondering if I crossed a line. Mike says that he's never speaking to me again, and Alex has sworn every swear under the sun in my direction. Am I the a-hole? Edit for some clarifications, frequently asked questions. In the past, Amy has asked them several times to know about her bio parents. I have also privately spoken to them about it. No matter the mention of medical history, her rights, anything, they have never changed their minds. They have always been 100% set on Amy not needing to know. Amy is financially dependent on us. She could not have bought the test herself. Also, further clarification because people are now concerned we are financially abusing her. Amy has an allowance, access to her dad's bank accounts. She just doesn't have her own money. Me buying it kept it off their banking history, and that's really the only reason it had to be me, if I had to guess. The reason I said Amy is basically an adult is because I don't consider someone a full adult until they're capable of fully supporting themselves and integrated into society. I know at 19 that she's an adult. Thank you everyone for the responses. Honestly, I have never understood why Alex and Mike are so set on the DNA thing. They both have crappy parents' childhoods. So I've always assumed that was the main reason. But I really don't know. I don't have an adopted child. Not the a-hole. She's literally an adult and she asked you for something she wanted as a gift that she could easily have bought for herself. You did not initiate this nor advocate for it. It was completely her choice. If she hadn't involved you, it would have been the same result, but your friends are using you as a vessel for their anger and insecurities regarding her researching her biological lineage. Not the a-hole. Your friends are huge a-holes. They can't just prohibit someone from learning something about themselves because it makes you uncomfortable. They knew it was a possibility when they decided to adopt. The bio mom is an a-hole too, overreaching and inserting herself in the family in such a way. She wasn't introduced by Amy, she just decided to reach out to them on her own accord, and it sounds like she did it before Amy even told her dads about it. Amy and you aren't the a-holes. Not the a-hole. Amy is 19. Amy is an adult. You didn't do anything for her that she couldn't have gone out and done for herself. I think it would have been wise to inform your friends, especially since you knew how they felt. I'm sure things are uncomfortable for Amy at home right now. So had you explained your own experience, you could have helped them to understand why it's so important, but also that they aren't being replaced, which I imagine is a concern for them. Personally, I think knowing who your birth parents are is helpful to understanding who you are and where you come from. But it's actually necessary because you should know if there are genetic health risks in your family, that is cancer, etc. Next story. So me and my ex have been separated for 2 years. We separated on good terms and we get on well despite our differences. We do have a 3-year-old daughter and he works a lot, so doesn't get to have our daughter often. For this reason, I gave him a spare key to my house so that he could pop in and see us whenever he wanted. I completely trusted him with this key. For context, I've never had a good relationship with my ex's mother. She's always hated me and accused me of ruining her son's life by getting pregnant so young. I was 18. She hates me so much that when I was pregnant with our daughter, she threatened to take me to the court to gain full custody of my daughter. When I found this out, I was of course furious and did confront her. They were empty threats, as I honestly think she knew she'd be fighting a lost battle. She despises me, and honestly, I'm not her biggest fan either. I haven't interacted much with her since I left my ex, except the fortnightly visits where I take my daughter to her house. Well, my ex has been coming over to the house as usual, but has not been using his key. At first I thought nothing of this, but it became more frequent, and so I said, if you're not going to use the key, I'll have it back. He then informed me that his mom had asked for the key so that she had access to the house and to see her granddaughter whenever she wanted. He told me he agreed. I lost my temper completely. After everything I'd gone through in the past, I had absolutely no idea why he thought it would be a good idea to give his deranged mother my key. I told him I wanted it back immediately and that I no longer wanted him to have a key. He's furious at me, seeing his mother is in pieces, as all she wants is to know that she can see her granddaughter whenever she pleases. I told him that was in no way realistic, and that if she wished to spend time with my daughter, she could message or call me and I'd bring her over with me there also. This wasn't good enough, and now he and his family are not speaking to me. So am I the a-hole? Edit. My ex only had a key as he would often come around dinner time, and having to leave the stove or stop doing chores, etc. every day became very tedious, and it was simply convenient for him to carry a key. It was a very minor inconvenience, but it made my day slightly easier. My child was never left home alone. Start documenting these things, exact dates, exactly what they do and say. This sounds like a course leading to a restraining order on mother-in-law. Be prepared for that date. Stand your ground firmly on this issue. If he wants to invite her over while caring for his daughter, that's his choice. Giving her access to your home is a gross violation of trust, and you're in the right to revoke that access. Personally, don't ask for the key back. Just change the locks. It will give you peace of mind that you're safe again. Not the a-hole. Most grandparents cannot see their grandkids whenever they want. They have to contact the parents and make arrangements to meet up. Your ex-mother-in-law wants that key for some other reason, and I doubt it is a good one. Get your locks changed. Even if you get that key back, they might have made a copy of it. It's not all that expensive if you can get a locksmith to do it. Or you can rekey the locks yourself if you're good at DIY. And I'd look for signs that someone has been in your house while you were out. She clearly wasn't using the key while you were at home, but that doesn't mean she didn't snoop around while you were out. I'm hung up on the concept of ex-mother-in-law having a key under the guise of seeing the grandkid. You said this so well. This isn't a normal thing to see a grandchild anytime a grandparent pleases. OP is clearly a good parent. This 3-year-old isn't just sitting there, alone for grandma to pop over and chat with and then leave again. If original poster hasn't seen grandma over in all this time, then what's the key being used for? Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Change the locks immediately. This woman will make a copy before she ever returns it. And if she has already threatened to fight for custody before, you don't know why she would do that kind of unlimited access to your home. Plant drugs or trash the place and call CPS on you springs to mind. A tad extreme, but if this sub's taught me anything, it's that anything really is possible. Never give your ex a key. He has proven himself to be completely untrustworthy in violating yours and your daughter's safety. Document everything from now on and anything you can remember and have proof of retroactively. I have a feeling you're gonna need it.